on satellite, on Freeview, on cable, on radio, on mobile, on the web, and around the world. This is Other Derana 24/7.
Making headlines first at 9. Startling revelations. Commission of Bond Inquiry listens to deleted call recordings and asserts that Arjun Aloysius was aware of cut-off rates prior to actions. 20th Amendment. Attorney General assures the Supreme Court that local government polls will be held within a year of passing the bill in Parliament. War crimes allegations. Government asked for 2 weeks' time to brief the Parliament on their stance on Minister Fonseca's statement. Wi-Fi for all. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe assures this service to the whole of country.
We are upgrading our telecommunication facilities. We are strengthening the Wi-Fi because we also want to send Wi-Fi out to the rural areas.
Brewing again. Hurricane Irma gains strength and becomes a Category 5 storm, above to hit St. Martin's in the Caribbean. A Category 5 storm is about to hit the Caribbean while startling revelations on the bond issue here at home. Good evening everyone, I am Mahesh Johnny and welcome to First at 9 on Other Derana 24/7. Let's begin with the local news. It was a day of revelation at the Presidential Commission of Inquiry probing the controversial bond issuance today. It was revealed that the former director of Perpetual Treasuries Limited, Arjun Aloysius, received extremely sensitive inside information of the central bank and other state institutions on bidding prices and rates. The telephone conversations which were played during today's proceedings also revealed that Aloysius was aware of cut-off rates of government treasury bond auctions, which are usually decided by the governor of the central bank.
The Attorney General's Department listened to the recordings of the telephone conversations yesterday, which were deleted from the call recording system of Perpetual Treasuries Limited. Today, the Chief Dealer of Perpetual Treasuries Limited, Nuwan Salgado, was questioned on some of the telephone conversations that were on the list. One of the telephone calls revealed that a son of a female parliamentarian who represented the COPE Committee of the 7th Parliament had handed over a copy of the statement given by the CEO of Perpetual Treasuries, Kasun Palisena, before the said COPE committee to Arjun Aloysius. During the said conversation, Palisena tells Salgado that a copy of the statement, which was given to Aloysius by the son of the female parliamentarian, should be handed over to the then governor of the central bank, Arjun Mahendran. In the meantime, the commission intensely scrutinized 2 telephone conversations between Kasun Palisena and Arjun Aloysius, who was in Singapore at the time. The 2 conversations had taken place during the Treasury bond auction on the 29th of March 2016. They revealed that Aloysius had given Palisena information on bids by the Employees Provident Fund and the National Savings Bank, as well as cut-off rates of the said auction. However, the Commission questioned the witness, Chief Dealer of Perpetual Treasuries, Nuwan Salgado, whether the cut-off rate is usually decided by the Governor of the Central Bank, to which the witness agreed. Salgado also accepted that he was aware of the fact that the chairman of Perpetual Treasuries Limited gave Kasun Palisena illegal information. He went on to say that he was aware that officials of the Employees Provident Fund and other governmental institutions gave inside information to Arjun Aloysius. During the bond auction held on the 29th of March 2016, Central Bank accepted bids worth 77 billion rupees, of which 40 billion rupees worth of bids are from Perpetual Treasuries Limited. That amounts to 52% of the overall bids accepted. Additional Solicitor General Yasanta Kodagore put to the witness that the reason Perpetual Treasuries Limited was able to generate an extraordinary profit within 2 years from 2015 was because Arjun Aloysius got inside information of the central bank and other government institutions, and bids were placed accordingly. The witness accepted it and told the Commission that since he revealed names of politicians, he is afraid of his safety. The Commission then informed him that necessary orders will be issued in the future over his safety. In the meantime, the Attorney General's Department informed the Commission that when the CID officers attached to the Commission reached Arjun Aloysius' residence to hand over notice for him to appear before the Commission, they were unable to contact him. Accordingly, the Commission informed the attorneys representing Arjun Aloysius to instruct their client to appear before the Commission in view of those notices issued. The Commission also ordered that the numbers of the 2 legal passports held by Arjun Aloysius be given to the Commission.
The Attorney General today informed the Supreme Court that elections will be held within 1 year after the 20th Amendment to the Constitution is passed in Parliament. The decision of the Supreme Court on the bill was also handed over to the Speaker of the House today.
කතානායකවරයාගේ නිවේදන ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාවේ 121 ව්‍යවස්ථා ප්‍රකාර 20 වෙනි ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථා සංශෝධනය නැමැති පනත් කෙටුම්පත සම්බන්ධයෙන් ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨාධිකරණය වෙත ඉදිරිපත් කරන ලද පෙත්සම් 13ක පිටපත් මා වෙත ලැබී ඇති බව පාර්ලිමේන්තුව දැනුම් කැමැත්තෙමි.
The Supreme Court informed its decision over the 20th Amendment to the Constitution to Speaker Karu Jayasuriya while commencing proceedings over the 13 petitions filed against it. The petitions were taken today before a trial at bar represented by Chief Justice Priyasad Depp and Justices Anil Gunaratne and Vijit Malalgoda. The Attorney General informed the court today that the government has decided to add more amendments to the draft bill. The Attorney General also informed the court that elections will be held within a period of 12 months once the bill is passed in Parliament. The Supreme Court ordered the Attorney General to provide that assurance in written form. Accordingly, the Attorney General handed over the copies of new amendments and the case will be taken up again tomorrow.
On the face of things, holding elections for all 9 provincial councils on the same day is a good thing, because it saves money and time of the public. For all the provincial councils to hold elections within 1 day, the amendment should mention that it is only applicable to that provincial council. By keeping it open, even if the provincial council is appointed for 5 years, if the existing government does not agree with it, the parliament will have the power to dissolve it in 1 week, a month, or in 6 months.
විසුරුවා හරීමේ බලය අපි පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට දෙනවා. මෙරට පුරවැසියෝ අවුරුදු 2.5කින්
Citizens of this country have not voted in 2 years. They are trying to postpone it by 1 more year. They passed the Provincial Council Amendment Bill arbitrarily by violating basic law and obstructing the rights of citizens to go to courts. We will see what happens in the future.
අපි බලමු මොකද ඉදිරියට වෙන්නේ කියලා. අරලීගහ මන්දිරයට නීතිපතිතුමා ගෙන්නලා
The Attorney General coming to the Supreme Court of his own volition to protect the bill to postpone elections is serious evidence that he was called to temple trees and threatened by parliamentarians. The Prime Minister recently told media that elections will be postponed by 1 year. Does that mean the Prime Minister knows the decision of the Supreme Court even before the ruling is given? We consider it to be a serious offence to the Supreme Court of this country. We hope the Supreme Court will answer it accordingly.
පිළිතුරු ලබා දේවි කියලා අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
Well, more from the Parliament. A supplementary estimation was tabled in the Parliament to provide additional provisions for every parliamentarian to maintain an office. The amount allocated for the purpose exceeds 250 million rupees. In the meantime, views were also expressed regarding provincial council elections. There has been a violation of fundamental rights by the Act that was passed last week called the Provincial Council Amendment Draft Bill, imposing laws on a selected group of people pertaining to the past. There is a social issue raised by eliminating the rights of the youth to contest elections. There is another political issue brought up by the new mixed electoral system. All these issues arose. This was passed over a number of arguments on this issue. Elections can be held by the end of this year or the beginning of next year. More on that issue, Minister of Local Government and Provincial Councils Faisal Mustafa makes evidence that all general provincial council and local government elections will be held under a mixed system in future. The minister made these remarks this evening addressing a media briefing in Colombo.
There was a need to amend the ordinances of urban and municipal councils as well as the Pradesh Sabha Act in order to hold the upcoming local government election at 60-40 rate prior to the establishment of local government bodies and gazetting their numbers. Today I got the cabinet approval and will gazette it in the coming days. I hope to obtain the approval of the Parliament as soon as possible. This amendment was never a cause to delay elections. Aims to hold all elections under the mixed system is included within the government's policies. As such, I obtained cabinet approval on a policy decision to forward a draft bill to hold the provincial council elections under the 60-40 rate. If the 20th is amended, we could hold the election under the mixed system.
දැන් මැච් එක අහන්න දැන් පිටිකරු ඔක්කොම ලෑස්ති වෙනවනේ දේශපාලන පක්ෂවල. මම විපක්ෂයේ හිටියා නම් මමත් මේ කියනවනේ. එක වැඩක් හරි හොඳයි කියලා කියනවා. හරි සාධාරණ ඒගොල්ලෝ කර්තව්‍ය කරනවා.
In other local stories, the program Kalana Mithru Pot Sumithru to encourage school children to read was held this morning under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena at the President's official residence. The event was organized prior to the month of reading, which was on October, as the first phase of the project. The Development and Special Projects Unit of the Presidential Secretariat selected approximately 3,000 schools island-wide, and those schools will be provided with a parcel of books from 3 languages. Addressing the gathering, President Maithripala Sirisena said that reading gives discipline as well as the ability to make right decisions at right times. Education Minister Akila Viraj Karivasam was also present at the event. The controversial statement by Minister Field Marshal Sanath Fonseca over former Army Commander General Jagat Jayasuriya was also taken up for debate in Parliament today.
Jagat Jayasuriya, Sri Lanka's ambassador to Brazil, Argentina, Chile, is being hunted by ex-LTT and Islamist diaspora legal teams who have brought war crimes prosecutions against him in Brazil and Colombia. What is the precise position of the government in regarding to such legal action against General Jagat Jayasuriya and any other members of the Sri Lankan security forces? Do the statements made by Minister Fonseca represent current government policy? And if not, what action does it propose to take against this and against further betrayals of the country's heroic forces?
Honourable Foreign Minister will be answering in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah,
but,
2 weeks' time.
But I must tell you, sir, that this is not the government position. This is a personal opinion expressed by the former Army Commander.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa says that it is futile to talk about a politician who was rejected by the people. The former president made these remarks when he arrived at the Valikira prison this morning to look into the welfare of former Deputy Minister Sarana Gunawardena, who is in remand custody.
පැරදිච්ච අපේක්ෂකයන්ට උත්තර දෙන්න ඕන පැරදිච්ච අපේක්ෂකයෝ.
ඔබතුමා දැන් නෙළුම් පොහොට්ටුවෙන් ඉල්ලනවා නම් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ දාස්පස්සේ අයින් වෙන්න ඕනද වෙයිද?
නෑ අපි තාම ප්‍රතිවරයක් නෑ. තාම ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ කියන්නේ
පොහොට්ටුවෙන් ඉල්ලන්නේ නෑ කියලාද කියන්නේ?
නෑ එහෙම කොයි වෙලාවකදී අපි දන්නේ නෑනේ දැන්.
No, we still do not know. We need to form an alliance, so even the president might join our party. He went to the Lotus Bud recently, so he might join us. We are still forming an alliance. No election has been announced yet. So before that, we need to form a proper party and an alliance against the UNP. You know better than me whether this government will lose or not. I can't see them holding an election just yet. They know they will lose, so they continue to postpone the election. I don't see an election this year.
මේ අවුරුද්දේ මැතිවරණයක් නෑ මට පේන්නේ.
Let's see what will happen. It's all because we ended the war. We also could have come to agreements and saved ourselves, like how this government did. Within 3 years of my term, it ended. Fonseca was fighting before that. I told you not to ask me about him. You are rotating and asking the same question. Ask me about the people of this country. Should we have to bring a no-faith motion against persons who have no faith from the people? It would be better to talk about a person who won an election. I don't think anyone who came otherwise will get a no-faith motion.
පිටට ආපු අයට මං හිතන්නේ විශ්වාස වංගු යෝජනා ගෙනේ කියලා කවුරුවත්.
Welcome back, everyone. According to the recent US Department of State Trafficking in Persons report, Sri Lanka is upgraded to Tier 2 from the Tier 2 watch list. To justify the upgrade, the report quotes increased efforts by the government in establishing new anti-trafficking units and creating a special police division for the protection of witnesses and victims of all crimes, as well as the investigation of 18 officials for complicity in human trafficking. In such a backdrop, the official campaign for human trafficking public information was launched today by the Minister of Justice and Foreign Employment, Talatha Atakorala, in the presence of a foreign delegation. Human trafficking is the trade of humans, most commonly for the purpose of forced labor, sexual slavery, or commercial sexual exploitation of the trafficker or others. According to the US Department of State Office to monitor and combat trafficking in persons, Sri Lanka is a primary source country for men, women and children subjected to forced labor and sex trafficking. It further says that men and women who migrate willingly to Kuwait, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Lebanon, the United Arab Emirates, Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia and South Korea to seek employment as construction, domestic or garment factory workers are often subjected to trafficking. In such a backdrop, a public awareness campaign was launched under the implementation of the National Strategic Plan for 2015 to 2019 with the partnership of the Ministry of Justice and Foreign Employment and the International Organization for Migration with financial assistance from the Government of Australia. The program was launched today with the participation of the Minister of Justice and Foreign Employment, Talatha Atukorala, Australian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka and Maldives, Bryce Hutchison, an acting resident coordinator of the UN and chief of mission of the International Organization for Migrants in Sri Lanka, Giuseppe Crossetti. The media campaign is expected to raise awareness through the television advertisements, highlighting labor exploitation and sexual exploitation.
Government of Sri Lanka has made significant progress in combating human trafficking, which include adoption of the standard operating procedures for the identification, protection and referral of victims of human trafficking, ratification of the UN Trafficking Protocol, establishment of dedicated anti-human trafficking units within the Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment and Criminal Investigation Department, establishment of a government-run shelter for victims of trafficking.
The Ministry of Justice approached Australia last year for assistance in supporting the campaign, and we were very pleased to say that we would be happy to do so. Australia is committed to continuing to work closely with Sri Lanka in this area.
Former Secretary of Defence Gotabaya Rajapaksa is adamant that the hard-fought victory in the war will not be betrayed in Parliament or through the Constitution. He made the remark at the inauguration ceremony of the organisation named ELIA, formed with the aim of defeating the efforts geared towards a new constitution.
The ELIA organisation was inaugurated today in Boralasgamuwa, pioneered by former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
The victories we gain will not be betrayed by the Constitution or by the Parliament. The present Constitution also has its shortcomings. The same group who funded the LTTE and supplied weapons to them are now trying to get what the LTTE could not get through the war by different means. The people who pioneered the new Constitution are the ones who are trying to bring war heroes to tribunals. Of 46 students who passed their GCE ordinary level examination with flying colours arrived at the other Derana premises today. The significance of the group is that they were all beneficiaries of the Derana Daruo Foster Parent Scholarship Program by Manusad Derana. Manusad Derana team also arranged a special program today to encourage them for their GCE advanced level examination and higher education. Other Derana initiated the Derana Daruo Special Scholarship Program to facilitate the education of children with parents suffering from kidney diseases. Accordingly, 2,500 school children were selected and their education was looked after by the dearest audience of Other Derana. Welcome back everyone on to international news. Just over a week after Hurricane Harvey ravaged the Gulf Coast of the United States, another massive Category 5 storm has just made landfall in the Caribbean. Hurricane Irma is regarded as the most powerful Atlantic storm in a decade, sustaining winds of up to 300 kilometers per hour as it made landfall in the Leeward Islands and is predicted to move towards Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic.
The eye of the storm hit the island of Barbuda, populated by 2,000 people, early this morning with wind speeds hitting 250 kilometers per hour before destroying recording equipment at the location. Media in Antigua quoted reports of damage in both islands, reporting roofs being blown off, while the next islands on the path, those of St. Kitts and Nevis, are on their highest national security alerts. Thousands of people have been evacuated from at-risk areas across the Caribbean, and airports have closed on several islands, popular holiday destinations, and authorities have urged people to go to public shelters. US President Donald Trump declared a state of emergency for Florida, Puerto Rico, and the US Virgin Islands.
A prominent Indian journalist critical of Hindu nationalist politics was murdered at her home in the southern state of Karnataka last night. 55-year-old Gauri Lankesh, whose tabloid was known for its left-leaning views and facing several defamation cases, was shot at close range by gunmen who police suspect of having been surveilling her. Lankesh is the most high-profile Indian journalist to be murdered in recent years, and journalists seen to be critical of Hindu nationalists have come under several forms of attack, including by ministers belonging to the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party. Her killing follows several assassinations of outspoken secularists or national rationalists in recent years. On to business news now. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe highlights the importance of focusing on a criteria which drives common ease of doing businesses as the country is attempting to attract investors. The Premier made these remarks giving the keynote speech at this year's Investment Forum of the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation.
The Investment Forum is organised by the SAARC Chamber of Commerce and Industry together with the Federation of Chambers of Commerce and Industry Sri Lanka. The forum themed Unleashing South Asia will be followed by the SAARC Trade Fair, which will take place at Sri Lanka Exhibition and Convention Centre from tomorrow to the 9th.
We are looking at connectivity. So we have plans now to develop the Colombo port further, the development of Hambantota and the development of the Trincomalee ports. We are upgrading our telecommunication facilities. We are strengthening the Wi-Fi because we also want to send Wi-Fi out in the rural areas. We are now looking at the question of power. We are now negotiating on the establishment of 4 more LNG plants in Sri Lanka. So we have a plan. It's a question of how fast do we move. That depends on the investments we get, and we are confident on getting the investments.
We need trade and not aid. Export growth can no longer just depend on traditional exports markets. Therefore, it is imperative that the region finds new markets within itself and its neighbors and carves out easy market access to them. Plan to include a priority tariff line for competitive Sri Lanka products that would go into immediate effect upon the signing of the FTA agreement with China.
Well, a bit of news from the region. Developing Asia amounted to 40% of the global trade financial gap in 2016. According to the Asian Development Bank, businesses of all sizes continue to struggle to access sufficient credit, resulting in a global trade financial gap of $1.5 trillion.
In its 5th annual study, 2017 Trade Finance Gaps, Growth and Jobs Survey, ADB quantifies market gaps for trade finance and explores their impact on growth and jobs through a survey of over 515 banks and 1,336 firms from 103 countries. The survey released this month added that representing 74% of total rejections last year compared to just 57% in 2015. ADB highlighted that one of the biggest reasons financial institutions are reluctant to provide trade finance to small businesses is rooted in the cost and complexity of anti-financial crimes due diligence and the perception of low returns on financial support from smaller firms.
Let's take you to the stock market. Shares close at their lowest in more than 4 months today, with foreign investors selling risky assets in lackluster trade, while the daily turnover got a boost from block trades. The Colombo Stock Index resumed trade after a holiday, ending down 0.38% at 6,361, its lowest close since the 17th of April. Now, for a complete report, let's cross over to Imeshi Fernando from the Colombo Stock Exchange.
The market capitalization at the end of the day was 2,884.27 billion rupees. Top 5 gainers of the day were Lankem Development, Paragon, Ascot Holdings, Colombo Trust and Blue Diamonds, while the top 5 losers were Blue Diamonds, Non-Voting, Adam Investments, Kalani Valley, TransAsia and Multifinance.
Good evening and welcome to the Weather Centre. Your temperatures tomorrow will be on the cooler side, varying between 21 and 31 degrees Celsius. As you can see, low pressure zones remain across the island over the next 24 hours. Showers or thunder showers will occur in the western, southern, Sabaragamuwa and central provinces, and fairly heavy falls of up to 100 millimeters are expected, particularly in the Sabaragamuwa, Central and Uva provinces and in the Kalutara, Gaul, Matara, Polonnaruwa and Batticaloa districts. That's it from the Weather Centre tonight. Let's now take a look at your city-by-city forecast.
And that is a part of your world tonight right here on Other Derana 24/7. I'm Mahesh Johnny. With the latest in local, international, business, sports and weather, Indivari Yamuatha will return tomorrow first at 9. Be sure to join her then. And as always, before we wrap things up tonight, we leave you with stunning aerial visuals of our capital, Colombo, where the landscape has certainly changed for the better. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.